Hey guys, welcome to Fed by Fire. I'm Christian Whitlow. Today we are taking a look into a situation surrounding Pooh, Shiesty, and Gucci Mane. And no, I wish I were speaking on a hit song or a more positive note because I'm a fan of both of these guys from way back. Instead, we're going to be talking about how their names became connected in a federal case and how we got here and what's actually being alleged and what it all means from both a legal and an industry perspective. So, to understand the current situation, you have to start at the beginning of Pooh Shiesty's rise. Pooh Shiesty came up in the late 2010s and early 2020s, gaining traction in the southern rap scene with a sound that quickly resonated beyond his environments. His breakout period came when he aligned with Gucci Mane for the new 1017 Brick Squad. That partnership was significant. Gucci Mane was already a legend, already established as a veteran artist and label head, and has a long history of identifying and signing emerging talent. For Pooh Shiesty, being signed to 1017 wasn't just a record deal, it was a platform that accelerated his visibility, industry access, and career trajectory. During that time, Pooh Shiesty saw mainstream success, charting records, viral moments, and collaborations that pushed him into the spotlight. But alongside that rise, he also had legal issues that would eventually interrupt his momentum. He became involved in a federal case related to firearms, which resulted in a conviction and a prison sentence. That case was separate from the one we're discussing today, but it's important context because it shows that law enforcement had, already been paying attention to his activities prior even to his release. And after serving his time, Pooh Shiesty was released in late 2025, not that long ago. At that point, the expectation, at least publicly, was that he would return to music and resume his career. For many artists in similar positions, a release from prison marks a reset, a chance to refocus, rebuild, and reestablish themselves in the industry. But instead, a new federal investigation began forming around events that allegedly took place in early 2026. So according to federal authorities, the indictment in question occurred in Dallas, Texas, and involved what appeared to be a meeting at a recording studio. And on the surface, the meeting, was reportedly tied to business discussions, specifically involving label-related matters and contract considerations connected to 1017 Records. So, this is where the connection to Gucci becomes relevant. Gucci Mane is not only a major figure in hip-hop, but also the founder of 1017 Records, as most of you know. As the label head, he has direct involvement in signing artists, overseeing contracts, and participating in business decisions related to his roster. And because of that, it's not unusual for label-related meetings to involve both artists and executives in the same room. However, what federal prosecutors allege is what this particular meeting did not unfold as a standard business discussion. Instead, according to reports, authorities claim that the meeting escalated into a coordinated criminal incident involving multiple individuals, and the allegations include armed robbery and kidnapping, with victims being held at gunpoint and alleged coerced into compliance. And in federal terms, that type of allegation is very serious, especially when it involves coordination between multiple people. The use of weapons and the alleged restriction of movement is a big deal. And those elements are what elevate a case from a local incident into something that falls under federal jurisdiction. Now, one of the key points that often gets misunderstood in situations like this is the role of the individuals present. Gucci Mane's name appears in the reports because he was reportedly one of the individuals present during the meeting. However, this is critical. He has not been charged in the case. He's not a defendant. He's a victim. He didn't do nothing wrong. Instead, based on current reporting, he is considered one of the victims for sure in the incident described by these prosecutors. And that distinction is important legally because presence alone does not imply involvement in federal cases. Prosecutors must establish intent and participation, conduct beyond a reasonable doubt for each defendant individually. So while Gucci Mane's presence ties him to the context of the meeting, this case is entirely different from those who have been charged. In April 2026, federal authorities carried out the arrests connected to the investigation. Pooh Shiesty was among those taken into custody, along with multiple co-defendants, like we said earlier. And the charges ended up including federal robbery and kidnapping related offenses. And in particular, the kidnapping is one of the most severe charges. The U.S. legal system, they often carry enhanced penalties, especially when combined with allegations of weapons and organized participation or interstate elements. Robbery charges at the federal level can also carry way more significant more time. Depending on how the prosecution frames the conduct and what evidence is presented, at this stage. However, it's essential to remember that, these are just allegations, and an arrest means authorities believe that there is enough evidence to bring charges, but, it doesn't determine guilt, and the case now moves into the federal court process where the evidence will be disclosed, reviewed, and challenged, and we'll be keeping up with this case. So how do situations like this even happen though? From a broad perspective, cases involving business disputes in entertainment especially can become complicated when financial interests, personal relationships, and informal interactions overlap. Label relationships are built on contracts, expectations, and trust, but they also involve negotiations, disagreements, and sometimes tension over money, ownership, or creative control. In some cases, those tensions are handled through, legal channels, and others, as alleged in this situation, authorities claim that the individuals attempted to address these disputes outside of those channels in ways that obviously crossed into criminal conduct. Again, the specifics of motive will be examined in court, and prosecutors, they may present one narrative while defense teams may challenge, the interpretation of events, the credibility of witnesses, or the characterization of what actually happened during the meeting. And another important factor in cases like this is evidence. Federal investigations often rely on a combination of the surveillance, the communication records, the witness testimony, and the physical evidence. And when multiple defendants are involved, the prosecution may also rely on cooperation, agreements, or statements from co-defendants, which can significantly influence how the case develops. And, from a defense standpoint, attorneys may argue that lack of intent, misidentification, or dispute the idea that their client participated in the alleged conduct. They may also challenge how the situation is being framed by prosecutors, especially in cases where business meetings and personal interactions are involved. They all play a part. Now, stepping back from the legal details, there's also the public perception of a situation like this. When people see these names they recognize from their life, especially successful artists connected to these serious criminal allegations, it raises questions about decision making, risk, and environment. And one of the common reactions is, confusion over why individuals who have achieved this financial success would be involved in situations that expose them to severe legal consequences. While, there isn't a single explanation that applies to every case, factors that often get discussed in broader conversations include personal associations, lingering connections to past environments, and unresolved disputes, and choices made, in high pressure or informal settings. But it's important not to oversimplify these factors or assume a single narrative without verified evidence, of course. What we do know is this: once an allegation reaches the level of armed robbery and kidnapping, in federal context, the legal system treats it with maximum seriousness, and they should. The consequences, if proven, are going to be crazy, especially where he has a rap sheet and just got out in October? It's crazy. And, as for Gucci Mane's involvement, the key takeaway is straightforward. Why did he do this to the guy that put him on? And I don't know their relationship, I don't know their personal relationship, but it's like, from the outside looking in, obviously, it looks like he's the guy that gave him a lot of what he's had. The reason he's basically free right now. But I bet he won't be helping him in this legal battle. So this is an alleged incident, and, everybody's innocent till proven guilty. For Pooh Shiesty, the situation is different, These are new federal charges, separate from his prior case. And now he must navigate another legal process while already having a history with the federal system. And, they gave him a chance before. Moving forward, the case will go through the standard stages that we talk about on this channel. That includes arraignments, discovery, pretrial motions, and potentially a trial if no resolution is reached beforehand. Each stage will bring more information to light and provide a clear picture of what exactly happened and how the prosecutor intends to prove its case, and how the defense intends to respond. Until then, the situation remains ongoing, and the final outcome is still undermined. What we're looking at is a complex intersection of music, industry, relationships, legal allegations, and federal enforcement, all unfolding in real time. And as with any case at this level, the details matter, the evidence matters, and ultimately the courts will decide what is proven and what is not. And we'll be covering it the whole time. I don't know if he's going to get out, if he has a bond hearing or something, or we will react to it. I got some killer breakdowns coming this weekend. Usually I'm breaking down federal cases and stuff, but this is a federal case too. But I just had to bring it up to y'all because I'm a huge fan. I genuinely pray for both of these guys. I don't know them personally, obviously, but, it seems like a great relationship that had met a lot of good things that it came out of, but at the same time, I just want to see these guys be successful, and, this is not them being successful. I'm interested to hear more of what comes out about how Gucci feels about it. And, you know, it's just crazy to me that Pooh Shiesty literally got out in October, and we're already talking about this again. So, there you have it, you guys. We'll be keeping updates on this case. I will catch you guys on the next one. Peace.